Welcome to the ACE Project, brought to you by the Literacy.io team at Texas A&M University. I'm your host, Ashley Stack, also known as Captain Comprehension. We are so excited you'll be joining us on this reading journey and hope you and your child enjoy this time together. So get comfy, rev up your brains, and get ready to think, because we are ready to help you become a comprehension detective.
Hi, Super Readers. My name is Captain Comprehension, and I am here to guide you as you become a comprehension detective. Welcome to week 20 of our podcast. This week, we'll be reading Chicken Sunday by Patricia Polacco. Have you ever been blamed for something you didn't do and had to prove your kindness? In today's story, Chicken Sunday, we read about how 3 children used kindness to solve a problem they were blamed for. Before we begin reading, let's go over some important vocabulary that will help us better understand the passage. Our first word is solemn. Solemn means marked by the observance of a ceremony or religious event. A synonym or word that means the same might be distinguished or serious, and an antonym or opposite could be undignified or silly. Our second term is bonnet. Bonnet is a cloth or straw hat tied under the chin and worn by women and children. A synonym or word that means the same could be cap or hat, and an antonym or opposite might be foot covering or shoe. Our third word is pelted. Pelted means to move quickly through the air by a forward motion. A synonym or word that means the same could be through or hurtled, and an antonym or opposite might be move slowly or tap. Our last term is intricate. Intricate means having many distinct parts or elements. A synonym or word that means the same could be complex or elaborate, and an antonym or opposite might be plain or simple. All right, Super Readers, pause those videos. Text POD 20, that's POD 20, to 866-903-2545 to start your questions for the week. Which word is a synonym for pelted? A. Bombarded. B. Halted. C. Ceased. D. Terminated. Which word or words help the reader to understand the definition of the word intricate? A. Beautiful. B. Splendid. C. Glorious. D. All of the above. It's time for us to read our story. I certainly hope you enjoy Chicken Sunday. Stuart and Winston were my neighbors. They were my brothers by a solemn ceremony we had performed in their backyard one summer. They weren't the same religion as I was. They were Baptists. Their grandma, Eula May Walker, was my grandma now. My babushka had died 2 summers before. Sometimes my mother let me go to church on Sunday with them. How we loved to hear Miss Eula sing. She had a voice like slow thunder and sweet rain. We'd walk to church and back. She'd take my hand as we crossed College Avenue. Even though we've been churching up like decent folks ought to, she'd say, I don't want you to step in front of one of those too fast cars. You'll be as flat as a hen's tongue. She squeezed my hand. When we passed Mr. Kadinsky's hat shop, Miss Eula would always stop and look in the window at the wonderful hats. Then she'd sigh and we'd walk on. We called those Sundays Chicken Sundays because Miss Eula almost always fried chicken for dinner. There'd be collard greens with bacon, a big pot of Hoppin' John, corn on the cob, and fried spoon bread. One Sunday at the table, we watched her paper fan flutter back and forth, pulling moist chicken fried air along with it. She took a deep breath. Her skin glowed as she smiled. Then she told us something we already knew. That Easter bonnet in Mr. Kadinsky's window is the most beautiful I ever did see, she said thoughtfully. The 3 of us exchanged looks. We wanted to get her that hat more than anything in the world. Stuart reached into the hole in the trunk of our wish tree in the backyard. He pulled out a rusty Band-Aid tin. The 3 of us held our breath as we counted the money inside that we'd been saving for weeks. If we are going to get that hat for Miss Eula in time for Easter, we are going to need a lot more than this, I announced. Maybe we should ask Mr. Kadinsky if we could sweep up his shop or something to earn the rest of the money, Stuart said. I don't know, Winnie said fearfully. He's such a strange man. He never smiles at anyone. He always looks so mean. We all agreed that it was worth a try anyway. The next day we took a shortcut down the alley in back of the hat shop. Bigger boys were there. They were yelling. Eggs flew past us and pelted Mr. Kadinsky's back door. Just as the boys ran away, the door flew open. Mr. Kadinsky glared straight at us. "You there," he yelled. "Why do you kids do things like this?" It wasn't us, Stuart tried to say, but Mr. Kadinsky wouldn't listen to us. "All I want to do is live my life in peace. I'm calling your grandmother," he shouted as he wagged his finger in Stuart's face. Miss Eula was waiting in her living room for us. "Miss Eula, we didn't throw those eggs," I sobbed. "Some big boys did," Stuart sputtered. "What were you doing at the back of his shop in the first place?" she asked. We knew that we couldn't tell her the truth, so we just stood there and cried. She looked at us for a long while. "Baby dears, I want to believe you. Heaven knows that I brought you children up to always tell the truth. If you say you didn't do it, then I believe you. It is too bad, though," she went on to say. "That poor man has suffered so much in his life. He deserves more than eggs thrown at him. You know, he thinks you threw the eggs. You'll have to show him that you are good people. You'll have to change his mind somehow." In my kitchen the next day we thought and thought. "How can we win him over when he thinks we threw those eggs?" Stuart asked. "He doesn't even like us," Winston chirped. "Eggs," I said quietly. "Eggs?" Stuart asked. "Eggs!" I screamed. I went to the kitchen drawer and took out a lump of beeswax, a candle, a small funnel with a wooden handle, and some packets of yellow, red, and black dye. Mom helped me show the boys how to decorate eggs the way my bubby had taught us. The way they do it in the old country. We made designs on the eggshells with hot wax, then dyed them and finally melted the wax patterns off. We put the eggs in a basket and even though we were afraid, marched into Mr. Kadinsky's shop and put them on the counter. He raised his eyebrows and glowered at us. Then his eyes dropped to the basket. "Spasiba," he said softly. That means thank you in Russian. "Pisanki eggs," he said as he looked closely. "I haven't seen these since I left my homeland." "We didn't throw those eggs at your door, Mr. Kadinsky," we told him. He looked at us for a minute. "Well then, you have great courage to be here. Chutzpah! You have chutzpah!" Then his eyes glistened and his mouth curled into a warm smile. "Come, have some tea with me." We spent the whole afternoon talking together, having poppy seed cake and strong tea. He told us about his life. We told him about ours. When we finally got the courage to ask about doing odd jobs to earn some extra money, he apologized and told us that there was no work. We didn't tell him what we wanted the money for. It didn't seem the right thing to do. Our hearts sank. "I tell you this," he said thoughtfully, "these eggs are as beautiful as my hats." Stuart, Winnie, and I looked at each other. "It is almost Easter," he went on to say. "I'm sure that people would love those eggs. Set up a table and sell them right here in my shop." For the next few days we worked very hard. We made almost a dozen Pisanki eggs. When people came in, they picked them up and said things like beautiful, splendid, intricate, glorious. We sold them all in one single day. That afternoon, when all the eggs were gone, we counted our money. We had more than enough for the hat. Just as we were about to tell Mr. Kadinsky that we wanted to buy the hat, he came out from the back room holding a beautiful hat box, gift wrapped. "Keep your money, children," he said softly. "I have seen Miss Eula admire this. It is for her, isn't it? Tell her that I know you are very good children. Such good children." When Easter Sunday arrived, we thought our hearts would burst when we watched Miss Eula open the hat box. She held us close as big tears rolled down her cheeks. Our hearts sang along with the choir that Sunday. She looked so beautiful in that hat. When it was time for her solo, we knew that she was singing just for us. Her voice was like slow thunder and sweet rain. Later that day, as Miss Eula sat at the head of the table, she said, "Oh, baby dears, I can die happy now. And after I'm dead on Chicken Sundays, I want you to boil up some chicken, bones, gravy, and all, and pour it over my grave. So late at night when I'm hungry, I can reach right out and have me some." Then she rolled her head back and laughed from a deep, holy place inside. Winston, Stuart, and I are grown up now. Our old neighborhood has changed some, yet it's still familiar too. The freeway rumbles over the spot where Mr. Kadinsky's shop once stood. I think of him often in his glorious hats. We lost Miss Eula some time back, but every year we take some chicken soup up to Mountain View Cemetery and do just as she asked. Sometimes, when we are especially quiet inside, we can hear singing, a voice that sounds like slow thunder and sweet rain. What a great story, comprehension detectives! Let's start with the text structure. What is the text structure of Chicken Sunday? Here are some of the clues that I heard. Ceremony, yelling, Easter hat, glared, splendid, beautiful, glorious. Was there a problem? Was it solved? Were two or more things compared? Use your bookmark to identify what the text structure was. Then pause your video and text in your answer. What is the text structure of the passage? Welcome back, detectives. It's time for us to write our main idea for Chicken Sunday. The text structure of this passage was cause, problem, and solution. So we'll use the sentence stems, the cause is, the problem is, the solution is. Pause your videos, discuss your main idea with your adult partner, and text in your answer to that question now. Here's what I wrote for my main idea. How does yours compare? The cause was Miss Eula wanted a new bonnet. The problem was, on their way to see the bonnet, the three children were blamed for the bigger boys who threw eggs at Mr. Kadinsky's shop. The solution was the three kids made Pasinki eggs for Mr. Kadinsky and for extra money for the bonnet. It's time for us to use our main idea to answer a multiple choice main idea question. What is the best main idea of the selection? A. Three children made Pasinki eggs as an act of kindness for Mr. Kadinsky and to earn extra money. B. Miss Eula held chicken Sundays at her house. She took the children to church and cooked large amounts of fried chicken. C. Bigger boys pelted eggs at Mr. Kadinsky's back door. Mr. Kadinsky found it hard to trust the children of the town and just wished to live in peace. D. Because Miss Eula wanted a new bonnet, three children were blamed for eggs bigger boys threw at Mr. Kadinsky's shop on their way to see it. These same three children made Pasinki eggs for Mr. Kadinsky, as well as to raise money for the bonnet. Pause your videos and send in your answers now. Great work, detectives! Now let's extend our main idea to write a summary for this passage. First, we think back to our main idea. We wrote, the cause was Miss Eula wanted a new bonnet. The problem was, on their way to see it, the three children were blamed for the bigger boys who threw eggs at Mr. Kadinsky's shop. The solution was the three children made Pasinki eggs for Mr. Kadinsky and for extra money for the bonnet. What are some details we could add to each part of our main idea in order to create a summary? Pause your videos and discuss it with your adult partner. Remember to add a detail to the cause, a detail to the problem, and a detail to the solution. Hey there, detectives! Here's what I wrote for my summary. The cause was Miss Eula wanted a new bonnet she had seen in the window of Mr. Kadinsky's shop to wear for Easter. The problem was, on their way to see the bonnet, the three kids were blamed for the bigger boys who threw eggs at Mr. Kadinsky's shop. Mr. Kadinsky felt he should be allowed to live his life in peace. The solution was the three children made Pasinki eggs for Mr. Kadinsky and for extra money for the bonnet. The children eventually earned the hat from Mr. Kadinsky, and Miss Eula looked beautiful and happy in the Easter choir at church. Let's use our summaries to answer a multiple choice summary question. What is the best summary of the selection? A. Miss Eula wanted a new bonnet from Mr. Kadinsky's shop to wear on Easter Sunday. On their way to see it, the children were blamed for throwing eggs at Mr. Kadinsky's back door. He wagged his finger and told them he wanted to live in peace. They made Pasinki eggs for Mr. Kadinsky and to earn money for the bonnet. Miss Eula showed off her bonnet singing in the Easter choir. B. Miss Eula wanted a new bonnet from Mr. Kadinsky's shop to wear to church on Easter Sunday. She had her eye on the hat. The children decided to raise money to purchase the hat for Miss Eula. Miss Eula looked beautiful wearing the new hat. C. Mr. Kadinsky was upset that children threw eggs at the back door of his shop. He blamed the three children in the story. D. The children in the story made Pasinki eggs to give to Mr. Kadinsky, a shopkeeper who was bothered by children throwing eggs at his shop. Pause your videos and text in your answers now. You're doing great work, detectives. It's time for us to infer. Remember, when we infer, we take clues from what we read, and we mix it in with what we already know to draw a conclusion or make an inference. Why might Miss Eula not have gone to the store and purchased the hat for herself? Why does the author include the information on the page beginning with "later that day"? Pause and think about these questions. When you're ready, press play so you can answer the multiple choice questions. Why might Miss Eula not have gone to the store and purchased the bonnet for herself? A. She thought the children should buy her the bonnet. B. Miss Eula really wanted the bonnet, but it was more of a dream. She didn't have extra money for it. C. Her house was too far away from stores. D. She was afraid of Mr. Kadinsky and therefore wouldn't go to his shop. Why does the author include the information on the page beginning with "later that day"? A. To show that Miss Eula was satisfied with her bonnet, chicken sundaes, and life. B. To explain how chicken should be boiled up and served. C. To tell how the family spent the rest of their afternoon. D. To explain how Miss Eula forgave the children for throwing the eggs. Thank you so much for joining us this week, Comprehension Detectives. I sure hope you enjoyed reading Chicken Sunday as much as I enjoyed reading it to you. I look forward to joining you again next week. Remember, we can all be super readers. This is Captain Comprehension, signing off.